It wasn't easy. It has taken the personal capital and involvement of the three of the top leaders, Trump, Putin and Zelensky, nothing less than that. And Trump is being helped by a set of very, very close confidants and advisors who are actually not very good at foreign policy. They're coming with so much animus,
Right.
and so much of baggage and so many wounds, I mean not physical but strategic and political, that both the leaders are going to require a huge amount of courage to go back to their people and talk to them and say, why did we lose so many young men? As you said, we are talking not thousands but hundreds of thousands. So effectively, it's a huge loss. They have 20% of Ukraine, which is now part of Russia as per their constitution. These have been annexed. So that is one clear gain which they have. Secondly, they have done a shock and awe in terms of decimating Ukraine's energy infrastructure, transport infrastructure, inflicting very huge damages on men and material, including a lot of the Western material. But yes, I mean, if you're saying that they could not occupy Kiev or the whole country, then true. I mean, that's not happened. But the question of whether that was ever the goal. But what they have also achieved, apart from the battlefield, is Zelensky is certainly a weaker man today than he was 3 years ago. So reputational damage, which Russia has suffered significantly. They are put on the back foot. They have to keep justifying whether they accept a rules-based international order. That's something which they will be living with. Thirdly, the level of animosity today between Europe and Russia.
Nothing but the truth. Hello, I'm Raj Chengap of India Today and your host for Nothing But the Truth. This is my weekly X-ray of key issues of concern to bring you perspectives and clarity as to why they matter to you without holding back on the truth. After more than 3 years of the Russia-Ukraine war, there is finally hope that it may be ending soon. Last week, US President Donald Trump pushed hard for an interim 30-day ceasefire deal as the first big step. He spoke to both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to hammer out a tenuous agreement with both sides having their own caveats. So in this episode of Nothing But the Truth, we would look at whether the flurry of negotiations will pave the way for a broader peace agreement. And to help us analyze this situation, I'm delighted to welcome Pankaj Saran, a former Indian ambassador to Russia and also an ex-deputy national security advisor and currently convener of NatStrat, a Delhi-based think tank. So, Pankaj Saran, welcome to Nothing But the Truth.
Thank you very much, Raj. Delighted to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj. And let's go straight to the big question. What is the significance of this interim 30-day ceasefire agreement that is being negotiated by President Trump? And do you see it as the first big step towards maybe a broader peace agreement?
Yeah, thank you, Raj. I think it's very significant. I mean, it was not easy to change the narrative and turn the ship after 3 years of very, very intense fighting and brutal fighting. So even this one small step is very significant. It, I think, changes the whole contours of the discourse of the last 3 years. It wasn't easy. It has taken the personal capital and involvement of the three of the top leaders, Trump, Putin and Zelensky, nothing less than that. And Trump is being helped by a set of very, very close confidants and advisors who are actually not very good at foreign policy, but they're very good at deal making. And so I would say it's a very significant step, but it's a long way ahead. On the road to what they call a durable and a sustainable peace. But, you know, as the saying goes, the long journey always begins with the first step. And I think he's cracked the ice, and I think we are on to further progress in the weeks and months ahead, for sure.
Now let's look at, and you had mentioned the toll while you were, analyzing the points that you made. people are looking at something like 400,000 or 4 lakh Ukrainians who have either been killed or military personnel who have either been killed or injured. And the Russian toll is also equally high. Some figures put it at about 7 lakh Russian personnel that have either been killed and wounded. This is huge, right? And so what are the kind of things when they are going to sit down and negotiate, what would be the key areas of concern for both, and what are the caveats they will be putting on this?
The key areas are, look, they're coming with so much animus,
right,
and so much of baggage, and so many wounds. I mean, not physical, but strategic and political, that both the leaders are going to require a huge amount of courage to go back to their people and talk to them and say, why did we lose so many young men? As you said, we are talking not thousands, but hundreds of thousands. So effectively, it's a huge loss. So the first thing you have to do is what has been done in the last 8 weeks since Trump was inaugurated, is to do a cold stop to the rhetoric, to the poison, to the public narrative, and turn the ship and turn the narrative away from talking about war incessantly to begin to talk about peace. That by itself is a huge shift. And then, of course, if you try and address all the issues at the same time, it's going to be very difficult. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you are trying to do it bottom up, then you will get stuck in the weeds. This peace process is a lesson where the leaders are coming right from the top, and they're trying to approach it through a political prism. So they are deliberately not getting into the weeds. They are taking it one step at a time, because there is a host of issues. You can get stuck in any of them. So that's the kind of, the nature of what we are going through at the moment.
Now you take a look at Russia's campaign that is there. What are, in your opinion, are the major gains that Russia has made? They did set off with a set of principles that they wanted, and of course have occupied quite substantial amount of territory. People say 19% of Ukraine territory, particularly in the Donbas region, which they say is Russian dominated. What is the, in your estimate, what are the kind of gains that Russia has made from the original so-called military invasion or whatever they called it? They didn't call it a war. What has Russia gained in this so far?
One can answer that question at different levels. If you're talking battlefield territorial, then obviously they have 20% of Ukraine, which is now part of Russia as per their constitution. These have been annexed. So that is one clear gain which they have. Secondly, they have done a shock and awe in terms of decimating Ukraine's energy infrastructure, transport infrastructure, inflicting very huge damages on men and material, including a lot of the Western material. But yes, I mean, if you're saying that they could not occupy Kiev or the whole country, then true, I mean, that's not happened, but the question of whether that was ever the goal. But what they have also achieved, apart from the battlefield, is Zelensky is certainly a weaker man today than he was 3 years ago. So from a political lens, they have achieved the objective of weakening Zelensky, of creating a rift within Ukraine on the question of whether the war should continue or they should settle for a peace. So that strategic gain, certainly I feel, is with Russia. And thirdly, at a broader level, what they have done is they have succeeded in creating a rift in the transatlantic alliance. And they have also succeeded in creating divisions within Europe. They have succeeded in slowing down the European economy, almost on the verge of deindustrialization. So there are lots of gains for them. But the question is it so simple? I don't think so, because they have paid a very heavy price.
Yes, can you detail that the heavy price that Russia has paid also? I mean, on one side, they've made tremendous gains, as you pointed out, both territorial and in terms of the world order changing. But on the other side, what are the big negatives that they face?
Look, firstly, of course, the reputational damage which Russia has suffered significantly. They are put on the back foot. They have to keep justifying whether they accept a rules-based international order. That's something which they will be living with. Thirdly, The level of animosity today between Europe and Russia is at an all-time high, perhaps as the highest it's ever been since, let's
Right.
say, the World War. So that's a big setback for them. Secondly, of course, the loss of people, the demographic battering that they have got. The economy has not tanked, but it's definitely slowed. They are under a whole slew of sanctions, which is which will hurt in the next few years. And they have been pushed in a sense. Their strategic options have been narrowed, and they've been pushed to the Chinese for strategic comfort, etc. So these are the kind of losses which Russia has faced, and it will take a long, long time before they can go back to the normal integration that they had and enjoyed with the West. So these are all the major losses. Now, they don't have much to negotiate. Of course, they have the territory, but they have to recover and recoup the confidence and the trust that has been completely lost. That will take a long time, many years, I would say.
Now let's analyze why both sides should come to some agreement and maybe peace is possible. So if you take a look at the Russian point of view, why should Putin sit on the table now? Does it suit him to have an immediate agreement, or does it suit him to sort of, okay, play along with Trump and say, yes, we'll work out things, but these are my caveats? And does it actually domestically benefit him to continue the war, or does he see he needs a 6-month timeline to actually work things out domestically? And what is the internal situation in terms of Russia and the support for the war? And Putin, of course.
Yeah, I think Putin has been waiting for the elections in the United States, and he's very clever, tactical person. So he was waiting for the outcome, and for him, there could not have been a better outcome, because he correctly assessed that if it was a Trump administration, that would offer him the best chance for finding a way out of this mess. It's a complete mess. And I think he also understands it. Trump has publicly, repeatedly said it's a classic mess. So I think Putin sees this as probably his best opportunity to find a way out. On the battlefield, he's more or less achieved what he wanted. He's got the 4 republics. He has incorporated them into the Russian constitution. But is he satisfied? I don't think so. Does he want an escape route? Yes, he does. So politically, he sees the alignment in Washington to be good, to find an honorable peace. Now, the question is whether he will be given an honorable peace. A lot also rides on the way he is approaching Trump's efforts to stop the war. I mean, the Trump also expects something in return. I mean, Trump has put his own reputation online, and he's the kind of person who does not countenance humiliation or defeat. So there is a big burden even on Putin on how he can respond to what Trump is offering him. So to answer the question, I think Putin was looking for a way out. It's not as if he's sitting pretty. He finds this as his best opportunity. If he does not take this opportunity, I'm afraid things are going to get much worse. There will be nowhere he can go, because he's in any case completely alienated the Europeans. This is his only lifeline, and and the people of Russia are suffering. I mean, Russian economy, as I said before, all those things are real. So these are the reasons why and there's, again, the very, very important point is the Russians under Putin and before have always, when there is a kind of a power which has lost its superpower status, it's a very prickly power. Self-esteem and pride become very important. One of the things which Putin and the Russians have been always asking for is equality and equal standing and stature with Washington. So here you have a situation where Putin sees that an American president is ready to talk to him and level up with him and talk to him as an equal. This is a big gain for Putin. I mean, that's what Russia and Putin always wanted, that you come to me, negotiate directly, don't send your proxies to me, don't send the Europeans to me, let's sort this out as two major powers. And so, in that sense, Trump has guessed Putin's requirements correctly of satisfying his, let's say, his ego, if I can use that word. So both men are playing this for their own purposes, but the stakes are high because neither can really afford to fail. There will be a lot of people and a lot of situations and a lot of issues which will come in the way of success, and they both know it. It's not going to be easy. It will require a big heart, a lot of steely determination. So we could be witnessing something historic out here. And so when the history is written, 2025, 5, 10, 20 years down the line, 2025 will definitely go down in history as a major landmark. And the personalities of Donald Trump and Putin and Zelensky and all these will all become names which will go down in history books.
That is if everything goes well, and that's what I wanted to come to in terms of the pitfalls. You had mentioned that there are pitfalls, and if you look at what Zelensky did and the way Trump has been dealing with Zelensky, the yo-yo approach, we saw how, in the White House, this tremendous spectacle that happened between the leaders there. And then we've seen, Trump again come back to the negotiation table, and Zelensky also come right back. And they seem to have patched up in some senses, reached whatever agreement that's there. Trump is very keen on the mineral wealth that Ukraine has and wants a deal, the critical mineral wealth. What is your understanding of the way US and Ukraine are behaving? And then, of course, we'll come to Europe and see what is the role they could play or not play in this.
I think what Trump has done is he has removed the cobwebs, and he has come out clean. He has, shed the baggage of a veneer of the whole war, and he's basically saying, let's call a spade a spade.
Right.
The role of Ukraine is over. He talks about repeatedly the fact that this should never have happened. It would never have happened under him. It's a war which is a complete mess. So he has actually, in a sense, put Ukraine in a particular context and asked Ukraine to review its own posture and its own, let us say, position in the war. I mean, effectively, he's saying, look, this is something between us and the Russians. You stay out of it for the moment. Let me first sort it out. Now, for Zelensky, that has come as a shock because he had heard something totally different till 2 months ago. So that is the first shock Zelensky has faced. But now the issues, of course, which will bother Zelensky clearly are, how do I protect myself after the ceasefire? What kind of a peace arrangement I can get? And so what we are finding is that you have the leader of the NATO alliance has taken a very, very definitive position, but the European allies are supporting Ukraine at the moment. But even the European allies are actually now talking in different voices. So their war rhetoric has very significantly coming down in terms of the public posture.
Right.
So the relationship between Trump and Zelensky is very interesting, I would say. Obviously for Zelensky and for Ukraine, so Zelensky has been weakened, as I told you, but even in terms of the future, what Ukraine and Zelensky are expecting is that you have security guarantees. What happens to the whole question of NATO, of EU membership, of NATO membership? What happens to the territory occupied by Russia? And on all of this, I think what the shock treatment which Trump has given to Zelensky, starting from the Oval Office meeting, is that he's suddenly changed the terms of the whole debate in a very fundamental way. There's no incrementalism here. It's a complete cold hard stop and a disruption. Basically, what it appears now and what it appears Zelensky has coming to terms with is he's not getting that 20% territory back. There will be a new contact line cutting through the north-south axis of Ukraine. He's not getting NATO membership. He might get EU membership. He will get some kind of security guarantees. That's really the the hard technical negotiation. He's not getting, unlikely to get NATO. He's certainly not going to get NATO peace enforcers or peacekeepers. He might get some coalition of the willing, but the Russians have already said no. What else can he hope for? He's now looking for reconstruction. He is looking for basic things like return of the prisoners of war, and all those kind of more minor details. So his position is not a good one, actually, unfortunately. What Trump is offering him in turn is that Trump, in a sense, is taking on the responsibility of ensuring good Russian behavior on his shoulders. And saying, look, through the minerals deal, or today's news is that he might run the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. So these kind of very innovative ways are being considered by Trump in a typical kind of real estate developer mindset that, I can do all of these instead of giving you straight security guarantees, classical guarantees of the type we have seen. So I would say it's a very innovative package, and there are huge doubts in Europe and Ukraine whether this thing will stick, whether you can move from a partial ceasefire to a full ceasefire to a peace agreement, and to then after that a durable roadmap in which the Russians say you have to address the root causes of the conflict, and the Ukrainians are saying you have to support my security guarantees.
Right. We've got a minute left. Just a final wrap on this. I know this is a subject I'm going to come back to you because we're in the thick of a major agreement that is going to happen and developments will happen. Your final gut feeling, you think it'll go through? You think, there is going to be this, or it could fall apart?
I think it's on track. I think there's no doubt, given the kind of personal capital he has put on the process. So it will go through, but it will go through in stages. It will be difficult, but I think we are on track to have a ceasefire and hopefully a peace agreement.
Pankaj Saran, as usual, you're lucid. You've given us great insights. Thank you very much for being with us on Nothing But the Truth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with me in this episode of Nothing But the Truth. I look forward to having you with me next week. Nothing But the Truth.